We're going to go to a special report now with ABC News about
We're coming on the air because the man accused of killing UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson has just pleaded not guilty in New York State court. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is facing an 11-count indictment, including first-degree murder in the furtherance of terrorism for allegedly shooting Thompson in the back outside a Manhattan hotel. If convicted, he faces life in prison without parole. He's also facing federal charges filed last week, possibly making him eligible for the death penalty. His lawyer calls those federal charges a pile-on and promises to, quote, move forward with a vigorous defense. And just moments ago, Mangione entered that plea to the state charges. Let's listen. And we saw just a moment ago, he walked into that courtroom. You can see him in handcuffs, flanked by law enforcement as well as his attorneys. There were plenty of people in the courtroom as well, some supporters of him. And again, let's take a look at that moment that he entered his plea before the court.
Not guilty.
Your Honor, we have a copy of the indictment, notice of immigration consequences, as well as rap sheet. I believe the court has, if we give the court an extra copy and one to counsel. Does the court wish that we be heard with respect to bail?
Well, what is the situation with the federal authorities? They have a security for
As we understand that we have primary jurisdiction, and we have been informed by the U.S. Attorney that they intend on allowing us to try our case first. So with respect to whatever goes on there, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the trial and the sentencing will take place here prior to anything that takes place in the federal system.
So what you just said, the answer is it's fine if we take custody today.
That I'm not sure, because Your Honor signed a writ in which it says that we're going to return the defendant to federal custody. So I think that would be step two. I do think that logically, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the custody should be here, but I asked the court, in light of the court signing the writ, indicating that we would return him to federal custody, that be done at a later time.
Well, I've been through this before, and if you do that, they will really right out of you. So don't think I'm going to do it. But if you work it out with them, that we will take custody rather than us bringing them back for any proceedings, that'll be great.
We will make every effort to accomplish that, Your Honor.
But there should be some kind of detainment, you know that.
Yes.
If there's a hearing or changes, there should be some mechanism.
Absolutely.
And then we can do that. All right, is there anything further?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to make a record, if that's okay with Your Honor. First, we'd request immediate, expedited discovery in this case. The people have had this case for about almost 3 weeks, and that's more than enough time to gather as much information as they can give to us, especially now that we have two proceedings that we have to answer to, one of them being death eligible. So we are requesting that we get immediate discovery of the New York City Police Department and FBI and federal and state documents. And the second thing I want to make a record of, Your Honor, is I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he's entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated. And as you know, Your Honor, there's a wealth of case law while guaranteeing his right to a fair trial. But none of the safeguards have been put in place yet here. In fact, it's just the opposite of what's been happening. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball between two warring jurisdictions here. These federal and state prosecutors are coordinating with one another, but at the expense of him. They have conflicting theories in their indictments, and they are literally treating him like he is like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. He's been cooperative with law enforcement. He had been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea was in their arsenal. And to have all of the press there, the media there, it was like perfectly choreographed. And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference, Your Honor? That just made it utterly political. And as Your Honor knows, under Lauro v. Charles, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has held it to be clearly established that these staged perp walks to the media, unrelated to a legitimate law enforcement objective, is unconstitutional. And I submit there was zero law enforcement objective to do that sort of perp walk. There's absolutely no need for that whatsoever. And frankly, Your Honor, the mayor should know more than anyone about the presumption of innocence that he too is afforded when dealing with his own issues. And frankly, I submit that he was just trying to detract from those issues by making a spectacle of Mr. Mangione, and there are consequences to this. He has a right to a fair trial, and I just want to put on the record statements that the mayor made publicly about my client. Nothing saying alleged, for example, and he said, I wanted to send a strong message with the police commissioner that we're leading from the front. I'm not going to just allow him to come into our city. I wanted to look him in the eye and state, you carried out this terrorist act in my city, the city of New York that I love. And he wanted to show symbolism. Your Honor, he's not a symbol. He's somebody who is afforded the right to a fair trial. He's innocent until proven guilty. And the mayor was talking to jurors, future potential jurors that elected him. Those are the people that elected him, that he is talking to and calling this man a terrorist. So, Your Honor, I just want to make a record of this and put everyone on notice that this has to stop. And my client is entitled to a fair trial and the presumption of innocence. And we're going to fight these charges, whether it's in the state or federal, to the fullest extent. Thank you, Your Honor.
We've been listening there to the attorney for Luigi Mangione, claiming he's being treated unfairly as he pleads not guilty to 11 counts in the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. I want to bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. Aaron, you were in court as Mangione entered his plea. What was that like, and how are people reacting outside court?
He walked in chains, both around his waist and his ankles, Diane, and he did not say a word except to utter not guilty when asked how he pleaded to the 11-count state indictment. He appeared to keep his eyes forward, both coming and going, and did not appear to acknowledge the several rows of supporters, mainly young women, who came to see him in court. And outside here in court in front of me, Diane, there are also a few dozen supporters holding signs and chanting "Free Luigi" or chanting for health care. So they are not the only ones. The mayor is not the only one who's been talking about Luigi Mangione outside of court. A number of supporters are here with him as well, Diane.
And I want to bring in our legal contributor, Brian Buckmeyer, as well. Brian, we just heard Mangione's attorney saying that she believes her client's being treated unfairly. Now that he's pleaded not guilty to these state charges, what happens next with both the state case and the federal one?
Well, what we heard from the district attorney in Manhattan is that they're going to have primary jurisdiction. I think that's to the benefit of Luigi Mangione because the state rules about how discovery, that being the information by which they're using to prosecute him, are much more open and expedited in New York State than it is in the federal court. So I think they're going to try to use the New York discovery to their advantage for both cases. And then next, as we heard as well from the prosecutor and the defense, they're going to try to figure out who goes first, where Luigi Mangione is either going to be housed or in whose custody, and to what extent this trial will be held in the state.
All right, Brian Buckmeyer, Aaron Katursky, thank you both. And we will have much more coverage throughout the day on ABC News Live and later on World News Tonight. I'm Diane Macedo. Have a great rest of the day.
You've been watching an ABC News special report on the murder of the UnitedHealthcare CEO, Luigi Mangione, pleading not guilty to all charges in state court. Again, his attorney saying that he is not being treated fairly.
Yeah, and some of the reasons that she's given for his rights allegedly being violated, saying that Mangione is being used as a pinball between two warring jurisdictions, and she's also accusing New York Mayor Eric Adams of using Mangione's case as a deflection point against his own case.